Hi, everybody. It's Susan again. Here I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Venus and Saturn together in Pisces. And that's for many of you in North and South America, that will be the 18th of January. And for the rest of the world, that will be from the 19th of January. But this is already in orb, a few days before and after. So we're only talking really about the exact conjunction, which is technically universal time. It's on the 19th of January. You can see that up here in the upper side of my screen. And I want to just mention again that I am a tropical astrologer. I use the whole sign house system, both in my consultations and in these videos. It's the only way to give you practical information. I can't use Placidus or other quadrant houses if I do this kind of a reading. And in my readings individually, I prefer the whole sign system. I did work with Placidus for 5 years before switching. So it's not that I didn't try. I just find that it makes me a better judge of what's going on in the chart when I use whole signs. And both systems are absolutely valid. I've done a video about this, so for those of you who are interested, you can check that out on my channel. I think it was about 2 years ago. Venus meets Saturn annually. Depending on her cycle, it'll be twice a year because the Venus cycle, when she's only moving direct, is every 9 months, and then every 18 months she stations retrograde. But we do have in 2025 a retrogradation of Venus, and that's between your Aries and Pisces. Now you can go back a few days ago, let's call it three videos ago. I did a video about the Venus movement between Aries and Pisces. It is something to pay attention to cyclically. So this is every 8 years that she goes through the same signs and then recycles herself. In this case with Aries, it's going back to 2017 and 2009, 2001, 1980, 1993, 1985. And you can carry on if you're old enough and go back and back every 8 years. And so you'll find that March, April, actually before 2001, only in April, but certainly March, April, otherwise, that you'll find that there's a similar theme that comes up in your life. I'm not going to go into that because I already did that in another video, but just to remind you that these are parts of a bigger cycle that we can learn from. And that's the reason I want to tell you about these things, is for you to follow, not to be told. This is really important. I find that astrology is somehow abused by people who just want to be told. We're not here to run your life. You've got your life to live. So don't let, as an astrologer, least of all somebody who's never seen your natal chart, tell you what to do with your life. So take these as instigations to look into your own life more deeply. And especially when we talk about bigger changes in life, it's not because we see one or two things in a generalized sense that it's going to be happening to you. For example, here with Venus, what I'm going to describe here with Venus Saturn will depend on your natal Venus, and it'll also depend on your natal Saturn and your natal chart. So there's a number of things that need to be factored in before you can say, oh, this is going to happen to me. And certainly, from my point of view, nothing is actually good or bad. You may find something desirable or undesirable, or comfortable or uncomfortable, but there's nothing good or bad in this lifetime. And to understand what I mean by that is that sometimes things that we don't want to happen turn out to be things that are extremely positively influential later on in life. They bring us to a better place. And so was that good or bad that it happened? So just be careful of judging in that sense, and understanding that we're always in this state of flux, that nothing is fixed and permanent. And so just to take that edge off of the fear that often comes up, sometimes I see that in the comments, where people say, what's going to happen to me? And it's, I don't know. What are you going to decide to do about this energy? If it's raining, do you take your own umbrella, or do you just get wet and complain that you got wet? So just pay attention to astrology from the point of view of its capacity to inform you, let's say, on what is going on in the world and in the energies at the moment, and then use that information and take action in your own life. Nothing is happening to you that you cannot engage with. All right. Now, if I come back to the Piscean nature of what I just said, that energy of Pisces can be very strongly in the sense of passive receptivity. Same thing with Virgo in the opposite polarity. So this is where Venus is on the 18th and 19th. Both Saturn and Venus are together, but they're also really, really close to Neptune. And Neptune is really close, 1.5 degrees away from the North Node. So they're building up to this final conjunction that we'll get at the end of January, but it's a very important first step, let's say. This is a step in a cycle of 3 encounters between Venus and Saturn, which is in itself really rare. And then it's even more rare because it's meeting Neptune as well in some of those encounters, and it's meeting the North Node. So pretty phenomenal times that we're living in. The passive quality of Pisces and Virgo can create an energy of victimization. It can create an energy of, I don't have any control over what's going on. And we have immense control over the way that we deal with what's going on. We have immense control over our thoughts. And it's true that we don't have a whole lot of control over what is going on in the greater world, or how we were born, or to whom we were born, or the color of our eyes and skin and all that stuff. So we have to deal with what we can grapple with in the moment, which is what's going on now in your life. And even right now, as I was speaking to you, checking your mood, checking your capacity to feel engaged or disengaged from what's going on, all of that is in your control. So when Venus meets Saturn, Saturn is kind of like saying, Venus, you get a little excited when you're in Pisces. You can be a little over optimistic. You can be a little over enthusiastic, maybe seeing things only from the bright side and forgetting that there's also another side to be more realistic, a little bit more practical. And that's all very good. But what are you going to do about this? So Saturn meeting Venus is not necessarily a bad thing, although it can, in some cases, again, depending on your natal chart, bring a bit of a sense of less Venus quality, meaning less of a connection, less of a feeling of things working in a more happy-go-lucky kind of way. But it's good in the sense that it brings something more real. So Saturn, when it meets Venus, can bring longevity to something that was just brewing. And especially because it's also in this aspect of there's 3 of these meetings. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity, especially as Venus retrogrades, and there's a lot of reflection on this area of your life, wherever Pisces is. We'll talk about that sign by sign. The reflection on what this means for you. What do I value? What is the thing that is important for me? What relationships are important for me? How am I relating to myself? How am I relating to money? Am I taking care of myself? Do I value certain things in my life, and what are those? And then Saturn is just saying, let's get real about that. Let's make this last. Let's give it legs. And so the Venus Saturn conjunction can be extremely beneficial. And you think of it as a kind of a wise elder, that the wise elder is showing this maybe a little bit frivolous, happy-go-lucky, over-romantic, over-idealistic Venus, just saying, yeah, just slow it down just a wee bit. Keep the optimism, but be real. Keep the feet on the ground, or keep those fins on the ground in the case of Venus in Pisces, and just say, let's have a look. Let's see how this is all going to pan out. And when will it pan out? It will pan out by the end of April. I'm going to show you in a moment how these energies keep coming back and forth and back and forth. So we really do have almost 4 months of this back and forth. Venus will be moving into Aries on the 1st of March, on the 4th of February, and then she'll be stationing retrograde on the 1st of March. So this dance with Saturn is going to repeat itself, retrograde, and then once again direct. And as it's doing that, you have this whole span of time to get really serious about what it is that is important for you in this area of Pisces in your life, and then, of course, Aries as well. And to also understand what you want to invest in long term. If this is about a relationship, a human interaction, then it's about what am I ready to overlook? Maybe what am I ready to compromise on that I was maybe finding it difficult to compromise on. This, for example, Venus is in a semi-square to Pluto at this first conjunction. And there can be this feeling of things are never exactly the way I want them. This is also this sort of energy of a moon in Virgo, is that things are never quite right. It's never exactly the way I want them. And that moon is in opposition to Neptune. So it's idealistic, maybe not seeing very clearly, over romanticizing, perhaps, maybe feeling even potentially melancholic. And it's also with the South Node, which depletes the moon. So there may be a sense of something that is if I can use that expression, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe you've got a really good thing going. Maybe you've got a really good relationship, but you're just being too fussy or you're expecting too much. Venus with combined with Jupiter can have over optimistic expectations. And so whether that's Venus in Pisces or Venus in Sagittarius, it can just be a little bit over optimistic, self-indulgence. It needs to look like this or it's just not good enough. So beware of that. Also, we've got the moon in a trine, very nice trine to the sun. The sun is trining the south node, sextiling the north node. It's also broadly sextiling Neptune, which it has been doing for the last couple of days. Before I'm doing this, I'm recording on the 18th of January. And along with those supportive qualities, there can be this feeling of, okay, let's just keep this ship going. Let's keep moving forward. There may have been tension earlier, and that has brought this sense of what do we really want in this relationship, if that's what it is, or even a business partnership, for example, if it's not a romantic relationship, because we had also the opposition from Mars to the sun. Mars retrograding, so opposing the sun, and that we had earlier in the week. So I think the exact date was the 16th of, was it the 16th or maybe it was the 15th of January? It doesn't matter because it's done. So the challenge was there. I think it was the 15th. And the challenge was there. There was something that needed to be understood. And now with that information, you can go forward and see, okay, what am I ready to negotiate on? What am I ready to compromise on? What am I not going to compromise on? This is Venus and Saturn. And so there's nothing horrible that comes along with Venus and Saturn. Again, I said before, it's something that does happen regularly. It's just that as this is happening right now, it's coming with an intensity of the combination of other planets that we don't normally get. So there's something quite karmic about this. It's very karmic, is meaning that it's something that we really need to do, or we are going to benefit through our spiritual growth by doing, or by releasing as well. Saturn can also be about letting go. It's moving on. It's something we need to release. And this is also seen because Mars itself is trining Neptune, and it was trining the North Node. It's moving out of that orb now, but that's still for me very strong. It's this kind of sense of what is the inspirational thing that I can do? What can I change? How can I act from a place of higher awareness? And rather than acting from a place of delusion, which could also be the Mars and Neptune combo, it depends again on your natal chart and how that's affecting you. So again, what we have that's really supportive is that Mercury is almost in a partile sextile to Venus and Saturn, and that's really helpful. So Mercury will be speeding along and moving into that sextile just hours after this conjunction, so also on the 19th. And that's really, really helpful in the sense of getting things clear, being able to communicate about things, being able to say what needs to be said. So very helpful. Lots of really good aspects. Saturn is ruling that Mercury. So Mercury gives a quality of what we can talk about, what we're ready to look at. And Mercury in Capricorn just wants to get things organized, wants to be clear about things, wants to get things done in the right way. So I see this as lots of supportive energy, lots of things that you can work with in a constructive way. We also have Uranus, which is retrograding, and it's not really powerfully connecting to these planets. It's still kind of sextiling Neptune. It's moving away from the sextile to Neptune, but it's holding the sextile to Mars. And that's really helpful. You'll see later, as we talk about the Venus and Saturn connections going forward, the three of them, you'll see that Uranus keeps coming back into the picture, because at the end of January, the 30th of January, it's going to station direct at roughly 23 degrees where it is right now. And that direct station will put us back into the movement that we got from May through till September of 2024, where we were developing, moving forward and growing and going into this new territory. Then we kind of went, wait, hang on. And slowly that Uranian energy started to pull back and say, well, maybe we need to re-examine this. So, but that's not a really major aspect of what's going on here, except that, of course, keep in mind, although Venus is not aspecting Uranus, she does rule it because she rules Taurus. And of course, we still have Jupiter retrograde. Now, when Venus moves into Aries on the 4th of February, Jupiter itself will station direct. So that's, again, really interesting things that are coming together. Jupiter rules Pisces. It rules what is going on here with this Venus conjunction with Saturn. Jupiter has been ruling Saturn since March, I think, 7th of 2023. And when it moved into Pisces, and of course, it's been ruling Neptune since March 2011, and it's ruling the North Node now since the 11th of January 2025. So Jupiter plays a big role, except that it's not in orb of any really specific conjunction. It's broadly squaring. It's Jupiter's almost at 12 degrees. So it's kind of squaring, but it's not enough that it's moving away from a square, let's say. So it's not really enough that we can pay close attention. Earlier in the week, again, before this exact conjunction, 18, 19 of January, we did have a Jupiter square Venus, which can bring a bit of self-indulgence. And again, that ties into the theme of where am I being overly idealistic or optimistic or unrealistic around my either relationships. Again, these can be business or intimate or in general, or my sense of values, my own value, and the way I deal with perhaps money and resources of all kinds. So Venus is also representing our nice things, our attachment to things, our objects. And when Venus and Saturn come along together, now keep in mind that Venus is very bright and she's very strong in Pisces. So she's kind of got the upper hand here. She's in a way she's going to get her own way, and so it might be again that there's a realization around where we may have been controlled by our desires. The moon represents our heart's desire represents our emotional or soul desires. But Venus represents our sense of what we prefer. And again, if she's just being a little bit spoiled, if she's just being a little over optimistic or a little bit too high and mighty, then Saturn will not be too stern about it. It's in Pisces after all. It'll just kind of be the gentle reminder, just remember you get a little bit carried away when you're in Pisces, just cool it. And so I think this is actually quite helpful in the times that we're in, because there's so much getting carried away in every way. There's a lot of emotionality, there's a lot of getting carried away. And so I actually find that this is very constructive energy. Now again, as I said, it does matter where your Venus is natally, and it matters where your Saturn is natally. So how do these planets actually function for you? For example, I have Venus in Aquarius, and so I'm used to the Venus and Saturn energy. It's kind of it goes with the territory. If you have Venus in Aquarius or Venus in Capricorn, you might know what I mean. And also, if you have Venus in aspect in your chart with Saturn, if she's conjunct or trining or opposite or in some kind of square, then that will also put this kind of restriction that can be very constructive, can be very helpful in terms of relating. It can also be challenging in terms of relating, but at this particular moment, we're looking at this from Venus in Pisces. And just to say, it's not the end of the world for those of you who are feeling like it's all going to be about depression and throwing yourself onto your bed, sobbing. It does not have to be that. We're going to take this like adults. We're going to grow up and look at Venus and Saturn as something super constructive. Now, the next chart I want to show you continues the journey with Venus and Saturn. And by the way, I bring that chart up? I'm going to bring up the 1st of February. So remember, we've got a big thing coming up here, the end of January, beginning of February. So we've got this whole extended journey of Venus with the North Node and with Neptune. And then even on the 1st of February and into the 2nd, we've got the moon with all of this. So Lord only knows what all that means. I mean, trying to put all these different things together in a conjunction is kind of like saying lots of feels, lots of things going on. I think I'm going to have to check in with you after the fact to see how any of that pans out. Not to mention the fact that it's actually on my Mercury, and that it's on my Diamond as well. So who knows if I'll be able to articulate how that pans out. But anyway, just to point that out, because it's coming up in 2 weeks' time or less than. And then the next date I want to show you is the 7th of April. Where did we find? There we go. So on the 7th of April, then we have the next time that Venus is going to bump into Saturn. Now, this becomes where Venus is, where Mercury had sextile Venus. Mercury is now conjoining Venus. That's a second time. And I'm not going to go back into the Mercury's first conjunction with Venus, but it happened when Mercury and Venus were both in Aries. So the point being that, so that's in March. And so the point being that this is now, again, a massive conjunction. Venus is now retrograde with Mercury retrograde and Saturn moving into new territory. It hasn't been this far along at the 25th degree. It only got to 19 degrees in June 2024. So we're moving into new territory. And here we have Saturn with a retrograde Venus, a retrograde Mercury, and it's very, very close to the North Node still. So that North Node Rahu is looming and creating an energy of more. It's expansive, it's creating something bigger, but Venus is retrograde, so she's not quite sure. We also have the influence of the eclipses that we had on the 14th of March and then on the 29th of March. And those eclipses also are going to show us something about what this Venus retrograde cycle means, because the eclipses and Venus in the same area are really telling us something about this particular aspect of our lives, this Piscean and Virgoan aspect of our life, and then, of course, the Aries part of our chart. Just phenomenal. Even more so because there's a sextile to Uranus and a trine to Mars, which is now direct. So now Mars is going to leave the sign of Cancer by the 26th, no, sorry, by the 18th of April. And as it leaves Cancer, it's also, again, contacting this Venus, contacting Saturn, and checking in with the last thing that it needs to do. This is very positive energy. It's supportive. A trine is very supportive. The last thing that needs to be done, maybe the last connection to what we feel is important with reference to our sense of our feelings, our personal needs, how we need to take care of our emotional body, our physical body, our land, our people, our country, our family, so on. And of course, wherever Cancer is in your chart, that applies very strongly. And then that mini grand trine with Uranus is a bit of the anybody can guess kind of phenomenon. We had Uranus at the 25-degree point of Taurus in the summer of 2024. So we're calling in something that's already happened from the Uranian perspective, but it's all very new because now we've got this whole new thing where it's in a sextile to Venus with Saturn and Mercury, just for good measure. We're going to have to be figuring this out as we go, basically. So on the same day, this is again the 7th of April. We have a lovely sextile from Jupiter, from the Sun to Jupiter. It's actually a separating sextile, but we'll take it. As good as anything can get this year is really what we're looking for. And then we also have a trine as the moon is actually now building to a sextile. It's approaching a sextile, which is a lovely fire trine, giving a little more inspiration as well. So there's a lot going on with this Venus that can give us some new information, new inspiration. If you have planets at these degrees, and again, we're really talking about in the first instance of the Venus, 18th, 19th of January, we're talking about the middle degrees of Pisces. And let's call it anything from, I don't know, let's say 14, really 2-3 degrees is as much as you can get. So let's say 14 degrees of Pisces all the way through to 19, maybe 19 degrees of Pisces. And then for this 7th of April, return of Venus Saturn, we'll call it, we're looking really at about 23 degrees, maybe we could call it 22 degrees of Pisces, but here all the way through to the end of Pisces, because we still have quite a lot to work with that North Node included. So from, let's say, 22, 23 Pisces and onwards. And of course, that applies by opposition to Virgo, by square to Gemini, Sagittarius, and then by trine to the water signs. So Cancer and Scorpio getting the more harmonious aspects of that. So you can take a note in your own chart to see where these things might be coming up by degree. So that's the second phase. Venus retrograding again is about questioning what we already tried, what's already going on now as we're listening to this, or maybe you're listening later on, but let's say by the 18th, 19th of January, whatever starts in this point, at this kind of section of January, you can continue for sure and grow into that. But just know that very likely you're going to be returning to just check in. and renegotiate and see how everything is going. And now if we go to the third time that they're going to meet up, hang on just a minute, 25th of April. That is a very interesting chart in and of itself, because on the 26th of April, we have the exact opposition, the third and final exact opposition of Mars to Pluto, but it's well in orb here. It's less than a degree of opposition, and Mars is starting to go faster now as it's moving back into Leo, so which started on the 18th of April. So we're going to set that aside, but just that's part of the context of the third time that Venus meets up with Saturn. Now, when she meets up with Saturn again, and again, that's the 25th of April. I always use universal time just to be sure. She's meeting up with Saturn, who's now reaching out into Aries. It's starting to get ready to move into Aries 1 month later. So by the 25th of May, it's going to move into the sign of Aries, where we already have Neptune since the 30th of March. I'm sorry, yes, it's the 30th of March. So here we have this Venus conjunct Saturn at 27, but we've got also the moon and the north node. So remember on the 18th, 19th, we had the moon and the south node. Now we've got the moon and the north node. So there's something that we're having more understanding about. We're getting it now. This is a little more solid territory. We've gone through the hemming and hawing and wondering, should I, shouldn't I, etc. We even at this time have Mercury that is almost passing the point of its retrogradation, where it retrograded on the 15th of March, just after the 14th of March eclipse, and where that was happening at just 9 to 10 degrees of Aries. Now, there's a lot more understanding here. So whatever you're grappling with here, or whatever is coming onto the table, let's say 18, 19 and beyond January, whatever comes to a head, let's say from the 30th or 31st of January into the 2nd of February, whatever you're trying to figure out again and going back over on the 7th of April, by the time we get to the 25th of April, things come to a head. It's more clear. We get it now. We're ready to rock and roll. And so here we have an almost 26-degree Uranus, which again is going back to the late summer, or let's say the end of, let's say, July, August, September of 2024, where Uranus is still covering old territory at this point. Uranus is in a sextile to the moon, north node, Venus, and Saturn. And of course, that puts it into a trine with the south node. So that's 1 degree away from, less than 1 degree away from a trine, 1 degree away from a sextile. So again, this influence of both Rahu, the North Node, and Uranus can be wildcard energies. And it's very karmic stuff, as I mentioned. With Saturn, it's about what needs to happen. With the North Node, it's inevitable stuff that's changing. And the more that this is going to be associated with these degree points on your chart, the more you just have to say, well, that had to be like that. And now what will I do about that? Now, it's not to say you sit on your sofa until these points and say, well, what's coming at me? Because again, that's this very naive, childlike way of living life that says Santa's going to bring me nice stuff if I'm a good person. No, we have to take action. We have to reach out into life. Sextiles are all about that. There's something favorable here, but we have to reach into it. Even oppositions and squares, there's something we can work with here. We can learn from these things. Wherever there's tension, wherever there's a need for adjustment, you just figure it out as you go and you learn something about that. Imagine you're at a street corner, like in a modern city where the corners are at a 90-degree angle, and you bump into somebody. Well, one of you has to move, and you can learn something about that adjustment. It's either in your approach, you need to approach differently, maybe less speed, more awareness, or you need to recognize, well, am I always pushing other people out of the way, or can I also give way? So just to give you an example in terms of the energy of the square. So we have a lot of learning around relationships in this spring. I'm going to call it spring. So for the Northern Hemisphere, of course, it's the autumn for the Southern Hemisphere. But this energy of the first 4 to 5 months of the year is teaching us a lot personally, because we're looking at Venus a very, very personal planet. And she continually reflects back on what's going on emotionally because of that the lunar, the different aspects of the moon, either south node or then north node. At the same time, she's coming up to Saturn and saying, is this worth the effort? Is this what we should be doing long term? Is this the correct way to behave? Is this better for me in my life? Now, we also have at the same time a square, separating square. Let's point that out. It's a separating square from the Sun to Pluto. So there may have been some need for adjustment. Again, Venus is now ruling the Sun as well as Uranus in Taurus, and so there's something here that she's participating in, along with Saturn that rules Pluto. So there's something that may have happened, or an adjustment, or a realization what we need to accomplish or what we need to do. Keep in mind that creates a T-square at the time of the opposition from Mars to Pluto. So there is going to be a bigger adjustment, certainly globally, because when we're starting to talk about Pluto, it's also, of course, going to be involving all of us collectively. But nonetheless, it's something that we can recognize as part of this new harmony, this new thing that we're going towards. So I hope that was clear. Just still not very clear to me. So I don't know if that's clear for you or not. Again, the Venus Saturn energy is about commitment in relationships. It's about getting serious about things. It can be also maturing relationship. It means maybe you've been dating and now you think, now we got to move in. Or you've been together for a while and you think, does this really work? Because it can also work the opposite way, where you think, well, you know what, we've tried. We really did put a lot of effort into this and it's really not right. It's not working. And that's also a perfectly valid new cycle of Venus and Saturn, where you're recognizing, no, it's not actually what we want. It's not good for either of us. So that is a good thing in the long run. Even things that end, Saturn is also about endings, and even things that end are also bringing new things. And so it's always coming two sides of the same coin, as it were. So that's really for the general thing. And now I want to just point out what's going on sign by sign. So we're going to pull this back just to the current transits. We're not going to do the actual conjunction, just to be able to get here to the ascendant in Aries. There we go. So Aries, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. So I have to repeat this 12 times. I can't bear it. So the Sun is you. It's your consciousness. It's your career. It's your sense of purpose. It's your identity. It's your father or father figures. It can be male figures in general, important male figures, leader type figures. And so that's important to follow. Especially if we're talking about Aries, if you have an Aries sun, that's an exalted sun. So it's a big deal. So don't just follow for your ascendant. This is a very new idea that only the ascendant matters. It's certainly not true. And that also will change depending on whether you might have an ascendant in one place, but a stellium somewhere else. And so you think, this doesn't resonate. This ascendant thing doesn't resonate with me. Well, look for your stellium as well. That it means a stellium means technically 4 or more planets. We could say 3 for a mini stellium, 3 or more planets, ideally the inner planets. Anyway, point being that listen for your sun, listen for your ascendant. That's you. That's literally how you appear in the world, how you engage with the world and the areas of life where things are happening. So that can resonate quite strongly. And listen for your moon, because the moon is extremely important. That's your body, that's your memory, it's your mind, it's your soul, incarnated soul aspect of self. And it represents also your relational energy in terms of your emotional connection to life itself, to yourself, to your mother, to people around you. What else does the moon represent? It can be home, elder women, home in the sense of the actual place that you live, or the sense of home, where you feel at home. Psychological health is dependent on the moon. Your overall mental state, frame of mind is the moon. So the moon is a big deal as well. So do listen for your moon as well. So coming from that place, coming from the perspective of who am I in my interior experience. All right. So enough of that. I won't do this 12 times. I can't bear it. I don't know. Somebody's putting out some kind of weird disinformation campaign out there about only the ascendant mattering, and it's a very strange phenomenon. I don't know where this comes from, but anyway, in Indian astrology, the moon is actually quite central. So just saying. And this is not Indian astrology. This is tropical Western astrology. This is not sidereal and it's not Vedic. So anyway, let's come back to Aries. Aries, sun, moon, or ascendant. This is happening in your 12th house. So when Venus meets Saturn in the 12th house, you may have a clearer sense of something that's been going on, either that wasn't really able to be revealed or that you weren't really feeling comfortable about being revealed, or there's something that you're becoming clear of in terms of potentially self-indulgent behavior that may not have been good for you, that may have been harming you. That comes alongside the nodal axis shifting in there, where you start to put more attention on what you are benefiting from in terms of what you do, how you do that. Things behind the scenes, behind the eyes, behind closed doors. That's the 12th house. This is like the operating system for the device that is you. And that 12th house is very important. It's our deeper psychological, unconscious, let's say. And so there might be something that you're becoming more clear around. Now, if this is about a relationship, this could represent some kind of no, that's not what I'm saying, far away, long distance, that's the word, long distance relationship. And there might be something you realize, it's like, oh yeah, you know what? We're really going to put some effort into making this work now. This has to work. We're really fully committed. Or you're starting to realize this really is too much for me. I can't cope with this much distance. I need things to be different. Now, this is also corresponding to the Mars going between the 5th and 4th houses, because Mars in the 5th is about your love affairs, and it rules your 8th house of intimacy and shared everything, how you merge physically, emotionally, sexually, whatever, psychologically with somebody. And Mars is going back into the 4th house, which represents home and your emotional and psychological foundation. And it is your ruler. Mars is your ruler. And so at the same time, this might be a bigger question about distance in relationship, or about possibly also a feeling of insecurity around home. Maybe this is literally about where you prefer to live and how you might need to go about doing that, and how that, of course, could affect your relationships overall, because you've got Pluto in the 11th as well, which is saying I've got a new vision for my future. I've got a new crowd of people that I need to connect with. I would need to see your natal chart to be able to say more about that, but just think about all of these different areas of your life that require a little bit more of a sense of commitment. And if the commitment feels lacking, either on your part or the other person's part, then you'll know that by the time Venus moves into your 1st house. So that's from the 1st of, or moves into Aries, whether that's for your sun, moon, or ascendant. But it's the 1st solar house, 1st lunar house, and 1st house on the ascendant. So that is where you'll start to understand from the 4th of February through until when Venus comes back into Pisces on the 28th of March, you'll have a clearer sense of what your role is in this relationship. It's quite a big deal, I'd say, because Venus obviously rules your 7th house of relations, and she rules also the 2nd house of family, money, your resources, what you bring to the table as well. So much to say, but I do think this is a really good time to be very clear about what you are getting involved with. If there's something that feels inaccessible, and it's either because geographically the person is far away and you're not sure you can commit, or they are simply unavailable, and that can be for a lot of reasons. They might be emotionally unavailable. You might be emotionally unavailable. Or they might be unavailable because they're already in another commitment, in another relationship. So you really want to reflect on all of those things and see, is this what I really want long term? And again, when Mars stations direct in your 4th house on the 24th of February, that will start to help clarify things. That's your ruler. When your ruler is retrograde, hard to figure stuff out. But it looks like this is a process from January right through till the end of April. And in fact, even up until the 6th of June, when Venus moves out of your 1st house of self, it's going to be a lot of reflecting on your inner process around relationships as well. All right, so make the most of that, Aries, and let me know in the comments how it all pans out for you. So Taurus, Venus is your ruler, and she is very strongly influenced when she's in Pisces. She's extremely happy. She's exalted. She's also in your chart in the 11th house of friends and associations and people that you can benefit from. Let's say people that will bring you nice things and people who engage with you socially. So it can bring you some really interesting relationships if you meet people around this time. Given all of this newness, listen to the introduction for more of that. And also, please listen to the little blurb about why you should listen for sun, moon, and ascendant sign. I'm not going to repeat it again here, but you've got a lot of newness coming into your social house, into your house of your vision for the future, into your house of the networks and people that are around you. And with your ruler in an exalted position, it can bring you some really lovely things. Now, again, it depends on your natal chart, but there's a lot of very favorable things here. Something in the third house may have been changing. Also, Mars in the third house has been changing your aims and goals. And so you're still perhaps reflecting on that until the 24th of February when Mars stations direct. You may not be able to take action on that. But you're definitely in a position now where you're starting to see a bigger vision for yourself, a bigger picture. And of course, Pluto in your 10th, it's saying I need to show up differently in the world outside, in the way that I appear to the world, whether that be through your career or vocation or just the way you show up for other people. What else can that represent for you? So the aspects of Venus in the 11th also represent gains, and that's quite favorable. You have Saturn, which is the ruler of your 9th and 10th houses, with Venus, which is your ruler, in her exalted position in the house of gains. So you might get some fantastic gains from the career that you are developing, or from people in high places, from some kind of recognition. This can be an award or something that means something to you. And it's not like you're going to get 3 awards because Venus is doing this 3 times, but it could be that you're setting yourself up for further accomplishment that is actually a longer term thing. So what I could say here, for example, is that you want to be hang out with the right people. Hang out with the right people, Taurus, is what I'm trying to say. Don't waste your time with people that you realize can actually either actively harm you or who don't want the best for you. So this is something that's going to bring you more benefit as well. And Jupiter is ruling this from your 2nd house of money. So because it's only going to station direct after the 4th of February, and that's when Venus moves into your 12th house, there may be something a wee bit wobbly about whatever these gains are, or about the way that you're growing into either maybe a social network or some kind of project that involves a bigger community or new friends, new pals, new people that bring you help. You may not see the results of this again through until April, when I listen to the beginning of this video to hear all those dates, but it may not be that you'll get the final results of this. But the results that whatever is coming is really important. It's going to be something that's needed to happen, but it doesn't mean it's not something you can participate in. You have to also add your, bring your little bit to the action as well. So start to plan with a sense of long-term vision. Something new is developing anyway with that North Node going through the 11th house for a year and a half. So you could even think of this as, because then by a year and a half's time from now, Venus will be retrograding again, roughly, a little bit longer, but still, this is part of a bigger cycle of this Venus retrograde cycle. So you could start to plan now, vision, collecting what you want for the future and acting upon that, especially after February, March. What else do I need to say? Yeah, so Uranus will be stationing direct at the end of January, the 30th of January, and that's when we have this major pileup, also including the moon, which is your exaltation ruler, Taurus, and that's going to be again in your 11th house. So I mean, we're looking at 3, 4 months of real big new things happening. Take it from the highest level. Um, don't waste your time with, the wrong gang. Don't cast your pearls before swine. So don't try to do things that really drain you. Maybe that's a way of saying that. But especially with all of this activity in your 11th house, take some action, Taurus, because Taurus, you might remember that you're one of those signs that likes things to come your way. And this is a time where we need to participate very strongly in what's coming our way. All right. Good luck with that, Taurus, and I'll see you in the next video. So Gemini, you still are blessed with Jupiter in your first house. It's still retrograde until the 4th of February, so it's not giving you yet what you are about to receive. And strap in because you are about to receive something. Jupiter is ruling your 10th house of career, where we find Venus connecting with Saturn 3 times. To watch the introductory part of the video. And and this is something about and also watch the little blurb. You'll see it in the chapters about why you should watch for the sun and the moon and the ascendant. So there's a lot happening in your way of showing up in the world. This is an extended period of time, but especially in these 3, 4 months from January into the end of April, even into May, there's a lot of reconsideration around your career, around what it is that you want to do, around what you might describe as your vocation, or how you connect with your parents. That's the 10th house of elder authority figures, let's say, and parents are one of those. So that's one of the aspects of that. How you connect to social pressures, even society, societal demands, societal obligations. What else does the 10th house represent? It's your aims, your sense of personal aspirations, your personal goals for your the way you aspire to be remembered in this world. Your reputation is also the 10th house. So time to take that seriously in a way that you can really benefit from for the long run, because here we've got a lot of really beautiful energy here that can show you something about what it is that will be remembered for good or bad. So make it good. And your ruler, Mercury, is in the 8th house and ruled by Saturn, which is in your 10th house of career. So there can be something that you're receiving from business partners, something that you're sharing. Commercially, perhaps business wise, it can be something that you're connecting with behind the scenes, or in a way that it's not necessarily like out there, but it can still bring you some kind of benefit. Mercury is perhaps a little secretive, or perhaps doing things in behind the scenes. When it's in the 8th house, that doesn't necessarily have to be bad. This could be if there is an emotional issue. Mercury also rules your 4th house, where we have the South Node and the moon is there. So there may be some emotional issue that you're dealing with, some sense of tugging at some loss. Maybe there's a need to spend less time at home to be able to go out into the world, or maybe there's some kind of challenge between what you feel is necessary and now how you want to reach out into the world. There's less of your energy and attention going through that 4th house, meaning that you're having to maybe push yourself out the door a lot more than you had been doing recently. But it's the timing of it. It's what you're meant to be doing. But if there is some kind of issue that was emotional, I'd say that by February, things will pick up quite substantially. And this can help with that, kind of giving you a more directional sense of what you want to do. Venus also rules your 5th house of love and romance. She rules your 12th house of what's going on behind the scenes, what is hidden, and its bed pleasures as well. So if this is about a relationship with a boss or a hierarchical figure, you be careful. I'll just say it that way. You play your cards close to your heart and be careful, because whatever is going to happen as all of these things start to shift, when Venus and then Mercury, your ruler, station in the 11th house of public renown and things coming from awareness, social awareness, public awareness groups, and so on, whatever's going to happen is going to be exposed and known about. So ideally, it's going to be what you want people to hear about in terms of your reputation. Just saying. So that, of course, is not going to apply to all of you, but it's worth pointing out. All right. So I think that's pretty good. Jupiter ruling your 10th with an exalted Venus there, with this amazing new cycle of all of these conjunctions happening again and again and again over the next 3-4 months, can only bring you benefit. So really take advantage of that. And the only thing I would say with Jupiter in your first house in Gemini is that you want, and especially as Mercury will be retrograding back and forth between your 11th and 10th, be careful not to bite off more than you can chew, that you keep it reasonable, and that you keep it in a way that feels like you are clear what you're doing. So your direction is very clear. And that I think you'll get clear on that when both Venus and Mercury retrograde. Venus on the 1st of March, and then Mercury, your ruler, on the 15th of March after the eclipse of the 14th. So that clarity of purpose will help to set you up for the long term. And that will probably be kind of revealed or understood or more manifested after April, May. All right, so good luck with that, and I will see you in the next video, Gemini. Cancer, this is happening in the 9th house. So Venus connecting with Saturn in the 9th can bring you a new sense of purpose, a new sense of why you do what you do, or a clarity around why you want to stop doing what you do, and just more clarity overall. There's definitely something coming in that can be quite fortunate. It's connecting to your ruler, the moon, in the 3rd house of choice, and that is coming from, the moon is in its joy, by the way, in the 3rd house. It's considered to be the house of the goddess, which is the moon, and we find the moon now with the south node. So there's something that you're letting go of, what maybe that's with reference to a choice or a way of thinking about something, or the way you connect with friends or groups, or the way you're working through teaching. That 3rd house, 9th house aspect, those 2 houses represent teaching. They represent counseling, advising, learning as well. So it works both ways. You may be learning something, but you're recognizing, no, I need to put more time into this thing, not that thing. And it's an awareness because we've got Uranus from the 11th ruled by Venus in the 9th, and it's about your future, but it's still not, Uranus is still not direct, but it is at the degree roughly that it's going to be stationing direct on the 30th of January. And that trine to the moon can be like a sudden realization, a sudden awareness. There's a mini grand trine happening here with Mars in your 1st house, which is retrograding, which is, again, just out of the opposition from Mars to the sun, retrograding in Cancer in your 1st house, whether it's sun, moon, or ascendant. Listen to the blurb that describes that. There's something here you're recognizing. How am I with other people? How am I in negotiation with people? How am I in terms of my clients? How do I deal with clients, if this is it? Because 7th house also represents clients. And this is about you. How do you engage with all of those things? And is it working long term? What do I realize that I need to change? Mars is also in a trine to Neptune and the North Node. And that comes back again as we go through the next few months. So there's a lot here in the 9th house that also has to do with fathers, teachers that you might benefit from, like spiritual teachers, gurus, counselors, advisors, mentors, spiritual figures of all kinds. And that might also imply your particular connection to spirit. Of course, since Jupiter is in your 12th house, even though it's retrograde, doesn't matter. It's still connecting you deeper and deeper to your own spirituality. And it also, with this combination, Jupiter ruling the 9th house from the 12th house, is a lot of attention in foreign lands, foreign development. So if you're negotiating something that is a contract or some kind of an agreement or some kind of participation in something like a conference or something that you're going to have to travel for, or there are 4 people that are abroad, probably things will start to harmonize or become more fixed and, forward moving, let's say, after Jupiter stations direct on the 4th of February and potentially also waiting until the 24th of February when Mars is now moving direct as well. Mars rules your 10th house of career after all. So there may be something that you just need to kind of wait for what, 6 more weeks or something, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't be preparing for it. Just to say that this Venus is bringing you something that is that will be in flux between now and the end of April, and it doesn't mean it's not good. It just means that there's negotiation, renegotiation, dealing with things in ways that require, I don't know, editing, revision, new conversations, new ways of seeing things. And you're in a process of what you might call maturation, or process of getting serious around this ninth house stuff. And now, again, the ninth house can also represent things that you publicize, whether it be in the form of a book or some kind of, something. It could be even your website, for example, or something that you post, or something that you're teaching online, or that can be also ninth house things. We have to think in terms of modern times that the ninth house is not just books that are like paper books, but it's about how you communicate knowledge. How do you express knowledge? So you're getting clear about that until the end of April. But it's a very interesting place to have a very exalted Venus, lots of harmony there. This is a house of good fortune. Mars, which rules the other house of good fortune for you, is in your first house. So it's not necessarily bad for Cancer rising. Having Mars natally in Cancer is a different story. That's not so comfortable, but having Mars transiting the first house for Cancer rising is not necessarily a bad thing. It's that it's because it's the ruler of your 10th and your 5th, it can bring you some real career success as well. So a really good time for Cancer to think long term in terms of the bigger sense of, why am I here? How do I communicate that? Is there something I need to learn about that? Is there something I can become aware of or remain open to? And is there something I need to do differently so that I can actually get more quickly into that new place? Because remember that Uranus, when it stations direct, is going to be picking up on energy that started in May, and the sense of how you want to reach into your future. So that's going to come back, and you're going to start to be taking more action on that. So profoundly spiritual time anyway for Cancer, because of all this ninth house energy. Also Pluto in the 8th, Jupiter there in the 12th, soon in July having Uranus in the 12th. Prepare yourself for what can only be described as a lasting long-term spiritual vision for your life. Ditch the Santa Claus thinking. Try and be serious about it, not in the way of like hyper controlling. That's not at all what Venus and Saturn in Pisces would be about. It's more about being in something that feels like this is grounded in something I can actually make benefit of, or bring benefit to others through. I'm not sure if that was a solid sentence or not, but there we are. And so, yeah, this is all, it's all very, very constructive, I think, for Cancer. So make the most of this and follow the beginning of the video so you can see how these different things are panning out. And I'll come back again and explain the journey to you as we're going through each of those different contact points with Saturn. All right, so good luck with that, Cancer. I'll see you in the next video. And for Leo, we have this really lovely connection in your 8th house of intimacy. It's everything that you connect with others through. It's like, but how do you blend and merge with another person's, either their body or their resources or their opinions or their values or whatever? How do you connect with another person? Now, this can on the surface feel like something that might be not so stable, but it can actually be really, really good for you in terms of marriage, for example, or in terms of a relationship that you're getting to grips on, that you really feel now you're ready to commit to. Venus rules your 10th house of social status. That can be part of that signature, Venus connecting with Saturn in your 10th. The sun is ruled by Saturn, your rulers. The sun is ruled by Saturn, and it's soon going to conjoin Pluto in your 7th house. So again, this can be something really quite good about relationships, something quite long lasting. Equally, it can be that you're ready to recognize that this relationship's not working And we need a new format. We need something different here. And maybe it's about money. There's a new way of sharing, or there's a new way of connecting around money. Or there's a new source that comes through financially. Saturn in the eighth can make things feel a little sparse. It may feel like you're not really getting much from the people around you, particularly your partner, although it does rule your seventh house. But you might start to realize, oh, well, actually, I can be serious about money. I can take care of myself. I can do these things and find success in my own way. The South Node going through your second house also is with reference to a change in the way that you work with money. And Venus Saturn is about getting serious around that. And Jupiter is in your house of gains. That's ruling the eighth house from your house of gains. And it rules your fifth house of good fortune. Currently, it's retrograding, so it's probably not really bringing you that. It might feel like there's a kind of tentative promise of something that can come your way through friends, maybe through intimate partners, even through, by the way, clients, because the eighth house is what you get from the people that you work for, like clients and patients, or whatever, however you might describe your work. And your ruler is in the sixth house at this time, so it can connect you to work in this sort of synergy here. And Jupiter, when it stations direct on the 4th of February in your 11th house, it might actually bring you some benefits or things that you might have been waiting for, or things that had already been promised and didn't really pan out. And now you can move forward with that. So that will also contribute somehow to the gains that you can get through this 8th house Venus-Saturn conjunction. Getting serious. If you work with other people's money, for example, or if you're working on a bank loan, or if you're working on money that needs to come through another source, this is quite good. It makes you serious. It makes you committed to doing that. Saturn rules your sixth house of challenges and difficulties, and the eighth house is about where we find unexpected surprises, like crises can come up through there. But this gives you a feeling of, okay, we've got this. This will sort itself out. Yeah, so that's what I got for you, Leo. It could be something to do with intimacy, potentially. There may be something around intimacy where you start to realize you've got a better grip on how you connect with people. If there were some kind of emotional blocks, Venus rules your third house of how you communicate. So maybe you're starting to realize, I need to say more, or I need to communicate in a way that is much more clear, saying what I want. This is especially true for Leo, because Leo gets, all these signs get characterized in a way that it's not always how things pan out. And Leo, sun, moon, or rising, especially Leo ascendant, can actually be really shy, and so sometimes you don't speak up for yourself. There's a challenge to that Leo quality, and if we look at this from a natal chart perspective, we've got the sun in the sixth house, and so that's like, from a natal perspective, would be a sun that has a difficult time saying what needs to be said. And if this is your case, this is time to speak up. I think I've said enough. Okay, Leo, make the most of this. I'll see you in the next video. And wow, Virgo, this is, of course, a big year for you in general. And to have Venus and Saturn in your seventh house of relationship is pretty awesome, because it's not only, of course, life relationships of all kinds, but it's also potentially clients, and how you might, for example, engage in new contracts, new commitments with professional relationships. So this is fantastic, brings you a lot of options here. And that's anyway going to continue, as we've got the North Node moving through there until July of 2026. So you've got more than just the Venus Saturn, but this is just really like kicking it off in a way that says, okay, there's something here that we can make really worthwhile. The ruler of your seventh house, which also rules your house of home and family, and where do I live, and how do I feel about that, and do I feel secure, or do I feel comfortable where I am? That's still in your 10th house. So Jupiter in your 10th can be really fantastic for social status changes. It can be around married, not married, etc. It can be around promotions, work promotions, and just promoting yourself as well in terms of your ambition or having a clearer sense of that. Now we have Jupiter stationing direct on the 4th of February, and just before that, on the 30th of January, we have Uranus stationing direct in the 9th house of your vision for your life and your purpose. And when Jupiter, which rules your 7th house, stations direct on top of that, I think you're going to find that you have sort of more, like, let's say, exponentially more opportunities to advance your career, to improve your social status. You might, like, for example, you could consider, preparing for a wedding or preparing for expanding your sense of home, or how you want to reach out into your career or into what you hope for collectively. Because then when Jupiter moves into your 11th house, it's going to be in exaltation in Cancer, and exaltation brings the best out of Jupiter. And that's about your vision for the future. So what your relationship qualities going to tell you right now, between now and April, is going to bring a longer term sense of how you go forward into your long-term future. And that's certainly where Mars is putting a lot of your attention. Mars rules your 3rd house of your personal goals and your willpower and the drive, and putting that in how you involve yourself in your choices and making bigger choices in life, how you communicate things. And it's going back and forth between your 11th and 12th houses. So it's already paving the way for this story of what it is that you want from the future. And of course, when we're talking about this Venus then retrograding along with Mercury, your ruler, which will be retrograding both in the 8th house, this could very much tie you into some expectation or new thing that's showing up in terms of how you share resources, how you share intimacy, how you merge yourself in general with the people around you, the individual, a life partner, a business partner, clients, how do you bring benefit from those things. Currently, Mercury is in the 5th house, which does represent good luck, and it's trinal to you. That's a very fortunate aspect to have. And that is also in a sextile to Venus in your 7th with the Saturn. So there's something about you that's bringing love or good fortune or a sense of chance, a sense of this is an opportunity into this equation. So really, really fine time. And that Mercury also rules, so your ruler, Mercury, also rules Gemini, which is your 10th house. So something about good fortune, or something about, also, by the way, the 5th house is your it's kind of like your instinctive knowledge. It's the knowledge that you're bringing into this lifetime. It's your intellect, if you like. And again, that's one of the reasons that Virgo has this sense of things need to be this way. The 5th house of intellect is ruled by Saturn, and Mercury Saturn is serious about dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making things just so. So again, just to give you a flavor of how the chart actually works. For those Virgos who like those details. So this is a very exciting time. I'd say go with the flow to the extent that you can in terms of who you are. You need to have a different vision for yourself, maybe shedding either insecurities around inadequacy or shedding things that make you feel insufficient, which is a classic for Virgo. This over perfectionism comes from inferiority complex. So you can ditch that. And this is what the South Node going through the 1st house is over the next year and a half. So what else to say? I think that's it, Virgo. It's all pretty good. It's all pretty good. And of course that Mars is in a sextile to Uranus. So something new, different, but it's probably going to only emerge once these planets start to shift into direct motion, and that picks up more from March and April. Right. All right. We leave it at that. Good luck with all of that. And I will see you in the next video, Virgo. Libra, this is happening in your 6th house of work and how you are connecting with colleagues or employees in some way, shape, or form. This is also about your health. I've said this in many other videos that your health should be, not to say that you should be worried about your health, but rather you should take care of your health. You should be focused on your health. Your ruler Venus is now with Saturn And that's very conducive to doing the right thing with reference to how you set yourself up every day, how you structure your schedule so it works for you, how you structure your work in general, how you structure your sense of obligation, commitment, duty to other people. The sixth house can also be how you deal with obstacles that need to be overcome. So Saturn also works really well for you, Libra. It's exalted. It's your exaltation ruler for Libra. And so Venus and Saturn together can bring you something really solid in your everyday life, in your work, that the choice of maybe new employment or a desire to do something new. So you do have Mercury, pardon me, you do have Jupiter, ruled by Mercury, up in your ninth house of your sense of purpose. And you may have been debating that since October 9th when it went retrograde. And now the 4th of February is stationing direct and it's going to start to move forward. So you're going to start to have a stronger flavor of what it is that you actually want to do, or who you are in this lifetime. You could say that as well. Who am I in this lifetime? What's my vision? What's my purpose? And what am I here to understand? This is also a kind of an area of knowledge or higher wisdom, the ninth house, the spiritual place as well. And Jupiter is ruling your sixth house, rules your third house of the mind as well, how you make decisions, how you choose. So be careful of overshooting the mark, let's say. Be careful of trying to do too much. Jupiter in the ninth can also be too idealistic or too visionary, want you to do too many things. And this could be where Venus with Saturn is saying, you know what, that's a little too much. We need to just kind of scale things back here. Certainly with Mars going through your 10th house of career, you are reconsidering your career goals. You're reconsidering your sense of your personal ambitions and how you want to deal with your current sense of career goals, or your social contribution, or your marriage for that matter. Mars rules your 7th house, of course, and 10th house is your social status, which means, am I married, divorced, etc. Yeah, I'd have to see that in your natal chart, though. It's not necessarily, you're not all reconsidering your marriage. Yeah, but this is a really good time for you to think long term, Libra. Think long term in terms of, how does my everyday work or commitment or sense of obligation set me up for success or failure? Because you're going to, when things start to turn around in terms of the direct motion, you're going to start to feel the energy picking up. And then Venus will station retrograde, your ruler will station retrograde in your 7th house. I did a video about that, so look for that. Can't remember when, a few videos ago. And so that's going to have a significant impact on how you connect with all of that, how you deal with colleagues, or your love relationships, or your spouse, for example. Contractual relationships, we'll call them. So yeah, it's a good time, Libra, to take yourself seriously so that you can carry on for being charming for as long as possible. All right, so good luck with that, Libra. I'll see you in the next video. And Scorpio, this is happening in your 5th house of love and romance and creative expression, and your personal creativity, and your entrepreneurial energy. And it's just an all-around lucky house. It's a place where you can bring quite a lot of good fortune into investing, for example, or doing things that are taking a wee bit of a risk. I mean, Saturn will help in the sense that it's going to be a calculated risk. So taking a risk in some way, shape, or form that allows you to feel like you can really jump into something that you can take advantage of. This is not financial advice, I have to say that. And you definitely don't want financial advice from a Pisces stellium. And so this is an opportunity for you to take a calculated risk that also might be a calculated risk based on love. And you certainly, because you've got Jupiter in your 8th house that rules the 5th house, it rules your 2nd house of your values, your sense of self-esteem, what's important to you. And that this can be really saying, no, I want to get serious about this. I want to get serious about love. I want to get serious about this commitment. I want to get serious about this business startup or whatever the thing is, um, or about my commitment to art. The second house also references your artistic skill or your artistic the desires around creating beauty, for example, creating things of pleasure and joy, which is also the fifth house. So there might be some just explosion of creativity that comes through Scorpio, sun, moon, or ascendant. Listen to that little blurb to find out why sun, moon, and ascendant should be listened to. And your ruler is at the top of your chart, which is always a good place to have your ruler. It's in the ninth house, again, a lucky house. It is in its detriment. So it's considered to be, or rather, it's in its fall, not in detriment. It's in its fall because it's opposite Capricorn, where it's in its exaltation point. So Mars is quite happy in the ninth house, but it's a little bit over emotional because it's Cancer. And there can be too much, let's say, connection to emotional baggage that can be emotional from the point of view of sentimentality around something or around your opinions of something. The ninth house, Mars, can be strongly opinionated. It can be idealism. There may be something here about foreign lands or things that you have to do abroad. Ninth house can be things about foreign lands, but also this can be very simply about things that have a higher meaning to you. And this might tie in then to how your career plans pan out. So we do have Mars going back and forth between your ninth and 10th house, which often represents your social status, your career, your personal goals, your sense of your reputation, how you want all of that to pan out. And as the South Node is also going through your 11th house, this is a period of time where you're letting go of a vision that you held for a long time, for 18 years, 18 and a half maybe. And that also, by the way, about 9 years ago would have had you focusing in this area of your life. And now it's like, you know what? No, not really. So maybe there was a new vision for yourself based on a different way of connecting through your creativity or your love, romantic type relationships, or your kids. And now it's like, no, now it's no longer that. I have to bring my focus back into those areas of romance and love and creative expression and your kids, perhaps if you have them, or the desire to have them. What else have we got here? Yeah, of course, Uranus is in your seventh house, so relationships have been a big source of mega source of change for you for 7 years already, since May 2018. And Uranus will be stationing direct at the end of January. So from the 30th of January onwards, the perhaps points of contention or confusion or unsettled kind of energy within relationships or business partnerships or connections to contracts, colleagues, and things like that, clients for that matter, that since May of 2024 is going to be part of what you're experiencing now. So from May 2024 until October, let's say, or was it September? I think it's October. Then you covered that territory. Now you're recovering that territory from the end of January. So if this situation for you has to do with love, romance, how do I express myself in terms of being me, myself, just who I am? And is that bringing me what I want in terms of what I think I'm here for? Again, the Mars in the ninth is about your higher purpose. Is that all working for me? And then you'll start to see from the end of January and certainly the first week of February that things are making more sense. And when your ruler, Mars, on the 24th of February is moving direct and moving forward into your 10th house, which happens on the 18th of April, that's when you're going to get a clearer sense of, oh, this was what that all was worth doing or not worth doing. And now I get to take action based on that. So I see this as quite good. It's quite favorable in so many ways. I think it's just a question of things are going to be moving back and forth. So there's never going to be not a certain clear sense of what's going on really until after April, I should think. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep pushing in that new direction in the thing that you want to do in the meantime. Not that I would need to tell you that, Scorpio, because you would, of course, done that anyway without me saying that. So good luck with that, Scorpio, and I'll see you in the next video. Sagittarius, you have this happening in your fourth house. So there's something here that's quite nice about feeling better. The Venus in your fourth house is certainly picking up the energy of Saturn in a much more cheerful way than you've had to deal with in the last 2 years, or almost 2 years. And so it's kind of like turning a corner. There's a sense of, oh, I get it now. I get this. This feeling is much better. It's more conducive. And that is with reference to this new energy that's starting because of the Venus-Saturn cycle, but also because we've got Neptune North Node conjoining in your fourth house, and your ruler is going to be stationing direct on the 4th of February. So as we go through the next few weeks, you're going to start to feel like, okay, this is all getting easier. I'm seeing things moving in a more fluid and harmonious way than they had been before. If you're thinking about home, property, buying property, land, or your connection to family, your family of origin, or your people, like your native people, your whether you are geographically close to them or not. And I'd say if you are a Sagittarius, good Sagittarius is never geographically close to their native people. You are maybe reconsidering something that feels more settled, maybe feels more like you're okay with it now, or that you're seeing how this can actually feel better. And so there's a feeling of I have found my home, or I feel now where I'm ready to put more energy into what I describe as home. Again, as I said, in the next few weeks, that will become more and more clear and easier overall. And so part of this equation is part of what makes you feel secure. And as Uranus is moving through the 6th house and Mars is moving through your 8th house, both of them retrograde, there's something here about work, maybe around money, the income that you derive from partnerships of all kinds, or the money that you share with others that has been testy, a little bit challenged, something that needs to change. And now you're starting to see that, and you're ready to make this change. So it wouldn't surprise me, for example, if a lot of Sagittarians would be ready to change jobs or have a sense of a better vision for the work that they're doing based on this particular moment in time. But it's going to be part of the Venus retrograde cycle, which I've spoken about in another video. So do go find that video. When Venus and Mercury retrograde, it happens in your 5th house of your sense of self-expression. It's a fortunate house. It's trinal to you, bringing you lots of good fortune. And then from the 18th of April, Mars will be in your 9th house, also trining you. So things are going to start to take off after April in a way that all of this sort of sense of, okay, I can be with this now, I can do this thing now, it's going to give you a greater sense of ease. I don't think you're going to be doing the same kind of thing or interested in the same kind of personal goals or aims or ambitions as you had been prior to this time. Things are shifting for you in 2025 in a big way, partly because of that nodal axis. And so whatever that was, whatever started, let's say 9 years ago, or whatever the bigger cycle 9 years ago, it felt more important. Whatever you're doing now that started 9 years ago would have been a new sense of career, and letting go of this sense of being maybe hidden in the background, or, now a disconnection maybe from your inner sense of security. Now your focus is that. Your focus is on this sense of security. Your focus is on, how do I need to live? Where do I want to live? With whom and in what kind of circumstances? And the career aspect is done. It's like I'm not doing that anymore. My happiness becomes more a priority. So whatever is no longer functional in career, which it seems is not, that is something that you're ready to start afresh with. So this is part of the Venus-Saturn cycle for you. Notice again that from the beginning that it's going right through to the end of April. It's a big long cycle. You're not going to get the answers by the 20th of January, but you're well on your way to establishing something new here. So good luck with that, Sagittarius. I'll see you in the next video. Capricorn, your ruler, gets to date Venus for quite some time. You're going to go back and forth between your now in January and April, where Venus and Saturn just keep meeting together in the place of Venus feels extremely comfortable in the third house. If you have something to sign, a contract to sign, or something that you need to deal with, again, this would depend on your natal chart, but it could be a really good time to do that because you've got Jupiter in your sixth house ruling the third house. You've got the Sun and Mercury in your first house, and Venus rules your 10th house of career, and she rules your fifth house of your, let's say, good luck, good fortune. So because Venus is in her exaltation place in that third house, this could be some very lucky move for you, corporate move or career move or relational move potentially. So your exaltation ruler is Mars, and it's in your seventh house, currently retrograde, but Mars does really well for you, Capricorn. Even if it's in Cancer, it's still going to do pretty well for you. It means that you are having to work harder in relationships or the relationships around you. Of course, maybe a nest of vipers, as they say, or something that you need to contend with, but you're up for that. I'm not suggesting that's the case. I'm just saying that you're up for that. It looks like you're ready to make a mark here, Capricorn, and there's something that could be very, very favorable to you. So your ruler, Saturn, is also the ruler of your second house of income and money and resources that you bring to the table, as well as the resources available to you. That's where we have Pluto. So you can also, sorry, I have a very hungry dog here who's pestering me. You have to just wait. Go lie down. And so you're here with a sense of you're ready to make a new commitment in terms of a new career, but it's just haven't either signed on the dotted line or you haven't fully understood the implications. It's just that, yeah, I see that this is happening and this is the new direction that is going to go. The third house represents your willpower and your sense of your immediate sort of aims and goals and how you communicate those things. It's contractual. It's also siblings, might have something to do with siblings. I'd have to see your natal chart to see that. Mars, which rules your 11th house of elder siblings and your fourth house of home, family of origin, lineage, property, and so on, is in your seventh house. So there may be something that you're having to deal with in that sense. Could be about friendships as well. There's something that's new here, I think, in terms of new favorable connections. Also, if you are inclined, if you're a Capricorn that's inclined to teach or be a mentor, Capricorns are generally really great at mentoring. Capricorns are also extremely funny. That's because Jupiter rules the third house, humor. And so maybe you've got a whole new thing, ready to do a stand-up comedy. Jupiter's in your sixth house, ruled by Mercury. Mercury's in your first house. So, okay, just saying, if you want to do slam poetry, stand-up comedy, you want to write a book, you want to now express something on the internet, or you want to, you just have something to say. Maybe you're getting more into the creative arts. Maybe you're starting to feel like I haven't done enough creatively, and now I want more of that. Venus rules your fifth house of creativity. Uranus is there, changing the medium that you use, changing the sense of what you want to do. This is all about skills, the skills that you bring to the table and those you need to learn. You can use that to master something and put it out there. And then Pluto in the second house says, yeah, why not? You can earn some money from this. I don't know, so many different things, Capricorn, especially when your ruler is involved. So all I can say is make the most of it. Let me know in the comments what's going on, and that'll help me also understand how to interpret these things better. But of course, when I see a natal chart, it's a lot easier because I'm not seeing anybody's personal chart. So good luck with that, Capricorn. I'll see you in the next video. Aquarius, you are also ruled by Saturn, just like our Capricorn friends, and Saturn is in your second house and it's being relieved by its connection now with Venus. And you're going to have three connections with Venus in your second house of money. It's your place of investing or things that you own. It's your collective, it's your sense of abundance as well. It's what supports you in general. It's your what you bring to the table, the resources that you have within you, as well as what's available to you. And a lot is coming your way. And so this is quite helpful. You've got Pluto in the first house. So what happens here is that a lot of what is going to change in the life of Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant is dependent on how you, as an Aquarian, are ready to change. And that's going to sometimes require a really solid look in the mirror, where you have to recognize where you have been holding yourself back. You've had Pluto in the 12th house, doing a lot of garbage collecting and sweeping out in the 12th house of your unconscious, changing a relationship to yourself spiritually, psychologically. Now you've got the South Node in the 8th house, which has a similar kind of energy, which is about what is unconscious to you, but you have access to it. And it's about a deeper knowledge of life. It's sort of like the knowledge of mystery stuff that you can bring through this and pull into your second house of the things that you can put on the table and use. So you have to change. You have to do that dirty work of looking at where you may have been the biggest obstacle to your success or happiness or whatever. And that Pluto can make you very powerful, can make you very strong. So in your first house. The Saturn Venus is also ruled by Jupiter in your fifth house, which is trinal to you, which is super helpful. Jupiter is currently retrograde, but on the 4th of February, it was stationed direct. And then you'll start to pick up the pieces that were left from the middle of, let's say July of 2024 until October 2024. So you're going to start moving forward in this direction, but now this time with a little bit more of a sense of clarity and focus or intention around your second house issues. This can also involve family. Second house is also family in the sense of how your family supports you or not. Since Jupiter rules that from the 5th, this might have something to do with children and how you connect through children, what's going on perhaps in their life and how that might be affecting you. But also it's about creative aspirations or entrepreneurial aspirations. So things that you do that can generate income, generate money. And when Jupiter is in the 5th, that can be very lucrative. It can be very favorable, but you're putting something of yourself in there, putting something of your own creativity in there. Mars rules your third house as well as your house of career, and it's in the 6th house of everyday work, overcoming issues that might be seen as difficult or obstacles that you have to overcome. And Mars, of course, also represents the actions that you need to take, and third house is your willpower, what your aims are in this time. So what you're doing every day, like literally, what time do you get up? What are you putting in your mouth? How are you eating? All the second house stuff is, by the way, that too. What's going in your mouth? What are you consuming? Are you over consuming things that you shouldn't, including narcotics or things that are just holding you back? That Mars in retrograde is maybe showing you now where you've not been taking care, or you're not establishing a healthy routine, or you're not establishing a pattern of working that's actually going to bring you the longer term results. And that you're getting this better sense of your values, more clarity around that, saying, okay, I'm going to smarten up a little bit. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to be more serious about that. And then especially after the 24th of February, when Mars goes direct, it really starts to bring you results, and you'll see that much more in terms of your career, your aims, your social status, your overall sense of ambition, and your sense of what it is that you want to accomplish at this time. So that's, I think, what I need to say to you, Aquarius. Yeah, it looks pretty good, actually. Listen to the introduction to be sure of all of those extra dates, because you're going to get this happening 3 times in your house of money and resources. And that can be quite helpful for your overall success, career success, and social success. All right. Good luck. I'll see you in the next video. Pisces, of course, this is in the first house for Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Really favorable because it's bringing a whole new long-term sense of self. The Pisces are coming into their own. The world is going to finally get us, Pisces. I've got a Pisces stellium. So the world is suddenly going to be much more aware, at the very least, of the Piscean qualities, or recognizing those aspects of Pisces that are alive within, let's say, within others. And so you can really stand out in the way that you show up in the world. There's going to be a part of you that becomes much more out there. Saturn has brought you a sense of confidence and maturity through maybe wearing you down a wee bit here and there. But with the Venus, it's like, okay, now I can move forward in a different way. My values, my sense of self is coming forward. The North Node is going to contribute to that. And then again, listen to the beginning of this video where I talk quite a lot about those three major conjunctions, with also the other conjunction bringing the end of January, beginning of February, bringing Venus, Neptune, North Node, and the Moon together. There's just a lot going on in Pisces. This is a huge year for Pisces. And so what you're understanding about what you need to do longer term, so Saturn is your longer term energy. Saturn represents your 11th house of your vision for the future, your social connections, your house of gains, how you might want to reach out into groups, reach out into the internet, or any of those things. And then the 12th house also represents long distance travel, faraway lands, your spiritual connection, where we find Pluto in the 12th house now for 20 years for Pisces. A lot of investment, let's say, in terms of the way that you are practicing your spiritual life, the way that you're reaching out into other ways of grappling with the world, with life. Just wait, puppy. She's hungry. And she's always hungry, so don't worry about it. So this energy of Venus carrying that flavor of what's going on in a longer term sense spiritually can also make you more comfortable with your own spiritual connection. And that's especially true because Neptune is on the North Node. And I'm going to come back in other videos to talk about this. Quite extraordinary few weeks ahead. So Pisces, you also have Mars going through your 5th house. Oh, and your ruler, Jupiter, in your 4th house. It's still retrograde. And so there may be, especially since October, there may have been a feeling of being unsettled, either emotionally or psychologically or literally in terms of your physical place where you live or what that feels like. And that's going to bring you a little bit more peace or calm when Jupiter is now direct after the 4th of February. And that will also have consequences on your 10th house of your career and your social status and your sense of your ambition, personal drive, and so on. Perhaps also with reference to parents, because that is also what the 10th house represents. So there may be something here reflecting on issues around parents. Venus rules your 8th house of inheritance, other people's money, relationships of more intimate nature, or relationships that bring you gain. And you have also Mercury rules the 7th house of relationships of all kinds, one-on-one relationships that are important, contractual relationships. And it's ruled by Mercury currently in your 11th house. And it's Mercury, along with Venus, that's going to go back and forth between your 1st and 2nd house when they retrograde in that space of March and April. Well, especially March, but March into April. That is going to be bringing you new ways of gaining income through relationships, or through the benefit of intimate relationships, or of inherited funds, or money that comes through other people, for example. Venus is going to be retrograding in your 2nd house of the money that you bring to the table, the resources that you have. So you may be reconsidering that as well. It doesn't mean that you're not also potentially getting money from other people. Just to say. And then Venus rules your 3rd, of course, as well. So your 3rd house is siblings, particularly extended family, community, your kind of the people around you, your neighborhood, and your coffee buddies and things like that. It's also your communication, how you communicate with people. That's changed dramatically since 2018, when Uranus moved in there. Uranus is still ruled by that Venus until July when it moves into your fourth house, and that changes your foundation in life and your perhaps your home, quite literally, or your sense of what brings you happiness and what makes you feel secure. That is, I think what can be happening here is that you're reconsidering issues around contracts or issues around how you might want to learn or teach something, or how you might want to communicate something, or how you connect to your local space, your neighbors, your extended family, cousins, and so on. Difficult because there's so many potential options when these things are happening in the first house. It's really reflecting on you. So lots and lots of opportunities coming the way of Pisces. And yeah, I think that's it for Pisces. There's a lot. Do listen to the beginning because there's a lot more information there. And I will see you in the next video. And thank you for making it this far, if you have. And I always forget to say it, but thank you for your likes and subscribing, and welcome to those new subscribers as well. Especially if you're Pisces, I guess you'll be hearing that. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.